rounds in the chamber, right? When she goes to the hospital, there may be a doctor, probably not. There might be a nurse there. They might have gloves, probably not. There may or may not be any anesthesia. And we work in countries and places, and some of you know exactly what I'm talking about, where the maternal mortality is in excess of 500 or 600 per 100,000. In Chicago right here, it's about 6.5, which is too high. In Denver, Colorado, it's a little lower than that. Switzerland is 500 or 600. I've been working in places where it's even worse than that. And the really insane thing about that is, the stuff that we need to keep those moms alive, we have in such abundance here in the United States that we don't know what to do with it. We have no idea. Where I live, people go out and they ride mountain bikes and they hike and they play and they ski and they do all kinds of stuff, and guess what else they do? They break their legs. And I have this standing bet with my friends that if you go garage sailing on a Saturday morning, I will bet you a steak dinner that somewhere in that garage there's a pair of crutches in the corner. Because that's just what we do. And what are you going to do with those crutches when you're done? I don't know. We stick them in the corner. We put them up for garage sale. I don't know. Project C.U.R.E goes around and we collect all of that stuff and we deliver it to the people who need it the most. I've been doing this now for 20 years. I promised my dad that I would help him for 6 months. I'm an attorney. I did a PhD in finance. I was headed to Wall Street to do what my dad did. I was going to go make my own gazillion dollars. And he said, Doug, I could use your help. And I said, great, I'll help you for 6 months. I've been here 20 years. That's how fun this stuff is. And I've made just about every mistake in the world that you could possibly make doing this. And I've learned some lessons. I'm not going to tell you the mistakes because they said I only have 30 minutes. That's a whole day's lecture. But I will tell you a couple of the lessons that I've learned. One of those lessons is that people don't work for money. Say what? People don't work for money. People work for passion and purpose. There's a great book that you can read called Drive by a guy named Daniel Pink. If you don't have time to read his book, then what you need to do is get a hold of his video and just Google Drive by Daniel Pink, and he's got one of those guys that does the whiteboard and he does all the cartoons, and you can read a 300-page book in 17 minutes. It's the coolest thing ever. He talks about this experiment that they started to do on an academic level, and what they did was they started to pay people to do stuff, right? We call it commission. And you know what he found? If you pay people piecemeal, like how many lug bolts can you put on a tire? They'll work a little bit harder. But you know what happens if you start paying people commission when they're supposed to work on a team or when they're supposed to do something creative? We get the exact opposite results. You get lower productivity. You want to ruin your team today? Start paying a commission. Because things happen physiologically in the brain when we don't let our left brain and our right brain work together. It's a crazy thing. And companies are starting to figure this out. They said, well, maybe the problem was that you did that experiment in the United States and we are too affluent here. So they went and they did it in India for rupees, pennies on the dollar. And you know what they found? The exact same result held. Interesting. People don't work for money. I speak to a lot of colleges and universities, and sometimes I'll come up to these kids, right? We got a whole classroom full of kids, and I say, okay, let's just imagine something. Let's just imagine that I'm going to offer you a new job, and it comes with a raise, and the raise is $10,000. Are you in? Every one of those kids raises their hand. I said, okay, well, here's the deal. It's in the hotel industry. And your raise means that you are now the head of sales and catering, which means that you just spent the last Christmas Eve with your family because you got to be at the hotel. Sound good? And you got to do the same thing New Year's Eve, and you get 2 weeks of vacation, but you can't take them consecutive. And if the convention goes on until 11, 12, 1 o'clock at night because the speakers run over, you got to stay. Still sound pretty good to you? And did I mention it's in Hootethunkin, Iowa, and nobody that you know lives there? Everybody up for the raise, and they all raise their hands and then put them down, and like, no, not me. Wait a minute, I thought you said you worked for money. I just offered you $10,000. Yeah, but we really like our lifestyle here. Wow, there's a lesson. You know what we do at Project C.U.R.E? I've got 32 paid staff and 25,000 volunteers. And you know why they do that? Because it matters. Here's what the scientists tell us about volunteering. They tell us that things happen within our brain when we start doing cool stuff for other people. That's a pretty neat thing. Like what, Doug? Well, like it reduces your cortisol levels. Cortisol is that stress hormone that you get that puts all of the round tire on my tummy when I get it, right? It's bad for you. Volunteering, taking care of other people, lowers your cortisol. It lowers your cholesterol. It lowers your heart rate. It lowers a whole bunch of stuff that we want low. They even did this experiment. They took people who spent a lot of time volunteering and they put them in an MRI. And they started measuring what was going on in the electrical synapses of the brain. And then they would show them pictures of stuff that was kind of unpleasant, like car wrecks and kids that were crying and things like that. And they measured the reaction in the amygdala of the brain. This is that reptilian part of your brain that works if you don't know it, right? And do you know what they found? The people who spent more time in service to other people actually had a lower response in the amygdala. In other words, you can manage stress better, not because of some pill you take, but because you're helping other people. That's passion. Simon Sinek talked about it when he talked about start with why. That, by the way, is on YouTube, and it's the most watched YouTube ever. And it's C-I-N-E-C-K, not C-Y-N-I-C, right? Simon Sinek. If you haven't watched it, watch it. It's a fantastic video because he talks about the fact that if we really want to have success, you got to start with answering the question, why? Why do we do this? I've got a lot of friends in Lions. I've got friends in Kiwanis. I've got friends in Rotary. I hope that's not a bad thing to say in a community like this. But my friends, I'm worried about the status of our clubs because we're not grabbing those millennials like we should be, right? Is that true for anybody else here? And I speak to a lot of clubs and I watch that. Do you want to engage those people in your passion and in what you're doing in your life? Then let's start with why. Why do you do what you do? Why is it so important? Can you articulate to a 28-year-old kid what Lions stands for? Can you tell them in 11 words or less why it is that you do what you do? Can you fire up your own passion to put down in their heart and to say, I'm going to give you this, and I want you to know why I do what I do? When we talk about why at Project C.U.R.E, what we're talking about is the why that we're saving the lives. Remember those moms I told you about? And those little kids that are riding home on the back of Dad's little Boda motorcycle and they fall off and break their arm and they go to the hospital. There's not even a Band-Aid there to say nothing of anything to do with orthopedic surgery. You want to know why we do what we do? Because we're changing the world and we're saving lives. And some of those volunteers have been working with me now for 15 to 20 years. Do you know what the average length of a millennial's engagement at a corporation is right now? 18 months and they quit. We got people working for 15 to 20 years. You know why? Because people work for passion and purpose. That's why. And if we can engage their mind and their heart together, if we could put that passion and that purpose together, we've got an army of people that will reach out and change the world. And I can tell you we did it. I just started out by telling you that this year alone, Project C.U.R.E shipped 180 semi-truck trailers cram-packed full of medical supplies to people who need it the most on nearly every continent on this planet. We've not gone to Antarctica. It's amazing what you can do. Well, I just told you the health benefits. I want to make one more connection. You remember what my dad learned? He learned that money doesn't make you happy. He had the Mercedes, he had the big house, he had all the stuff that you could possibly want, and he and my mom still weren't happy. Why? Because they hadn't connected their passion and purpose of life with service to other people. I don't know what your destiny will be, but this one thing I do know, the only ones among you who will ever be truly happy are those who seek and find ways to serve other people. I wished I would have said that first, but I wasn't the guy who said that first. That was Albert Schweitzer. And if you know the story of Albert Schweitzer, he was a Lutheran minister in that Alsace-Lorraine part of France and Germany. And he started reading his Bible, and what the Bible told him was that God cared about poor people. So he quit his job as a minister, and he went back and he started into medical school. And he went to Africa, to a country that we now know as Gabon, and he started practicing medicine there for people who had never seen a doctor. He got sick. His wife got so sick she couldn't even go back. When he finally passed away, he said, I want my body buried right there on the river in the hospital. And today you can go to Gabon and you can go to the Schweitzer Hospital. There's another one in Haiti. And you can go see what that man did. That's why he got the Nobel Prize. Because he figured out that the thing that makes us happy is when we serve other people. You say, Doug, does it work? Yep, I can tell you it works. We got together with a group called Saving Mothers Giving Life. There was 6 of us to start. It included Norway, and they went to Malawi. It was the United States government through USAID. It was a guy named Naveen Rao at Merck for Moms, a guy named Bert Peterson at ACOG, which is the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, a beautiful girl named Christy Turlington that's a supermodel. She's got a program called Every Mother Counts, and Project C.U.R.E. And what we did was we went to the 4 worst places in Zambia and the 4 worst places in Uganda to be a mom, measured by how many moms die in childbirth. And we decided that we were going to cut that statistic in half in 5 years. We're going to reduce maternal mortality by 50% in 5 years. And you know what everybody said? I thought they were going to throw a ticker tape parade down Michigan Avenue for us. You know what they said? Can't be done. It's too complicated. It's too complex. It can't be done. So Bert Peterson and the people at ACOG, they started writing curriculum programs. And it came out looking like a tic-tac-toe board. There's 9 little boxes in there. And I can take you to places in Uganda and Zambia, to these little nurses, and they can point to you where a mom died or where a baby died in one of those squares, and they say, this is what happened. And we fixed it, and it's not happening again. USAID started putting in statistics, and they started helping with the support and all of those things. Merck put a lot of money into this deal. Christy Turlington, she sells music at Starbucks. She sells Tom's shoes. And that money that she collects, she goes out and she gives these mommies vouchers for 5 trips to the hospital. We would go to those hospitals first and we'd say, if you're pregnant, we need you to come in for prenatal checkup. And they look at you and say, why would I ever go to the hospital? Everybody I know who ever went to that hospital's dead. My mom died there. 2 of my aunts, 3 of my cousins, my sister died there. I'm not going to the hospital. People die there. But you need a prenatal checkup. One of the reasons they couldn't get the prenatal checkup is because they couldn't afford to ride to the hospital. So Christy gives them a voucher. They get to go in a couple of times for prenatal checkup. There's another little coupon on there that they can go to deliver the baby. Now, get your mind around this for a second. Imagine being in labor and riding an hour and a half on the back of a motorcycle to the hospital. They do it. And then one more to bring the little baby back to make sure that they're vaccinated and that they're healthy again, right? These moms will do it. Project C.U.R.E. went in and put in all of the stuff, the delivery tables and the supplies and the equipment and all of the stuff. So you know what happens now? Dad walks into the hospital with this expecting mom. He knows what the statistics are. They're not very good, but he walks in there and now there's a doctor and there's a nurse and they're excited about being there. We shipped an entire pallet full of surgical scrubs, right? The clothes that the doctors and nurses wear. The head of the hospital in Zambia told me that's the first time these nurses have ever had new scrubs, ever. She said, we had a dance party, and if you've not seen an African dance party, put that on your bucket list because that is something not to be missed. Those women nurses were so excited about that thing. She said, this is the best thing that's happened to the morale of this hospital ever. That dad walks in there and he sees the doctor and the nurse and the equipment. They're trained. They got the chart on the wall. And guess what? He will invest the $5 to have his baby born there because he knows now his wife, his work partner, is coming back home. Is that worth it? Yes, it is. And everybody told us that it couldn't be done. Do you know what the result was? After the first year, we'd reduced maternal mortality by over 30% after 1 year. We're 4.5 years on in this program. We've reduced maternal mortality in these hospitals by 60%. They didn't think we could do 50. That'll show them. And you know what the really cool thing is? Every time one of those containers rolls out the door full of medical supplies to go do that again, it was packed by 25,000 people who didn't get paid a dime because they did it out of their hearts. You know what I'm talking about. You're lions. If you didn't believe this, you wouldn't be sitting here today. And it works. And you know it because there's people all over the world that are going to work because they can see. Congratulations to you. Do not stop doing this because changing the world is really what it's all about. The people who take their passion and their purpose and they marry it up with service to other people, those are the people that are really happy. That's what my folks figured out. I'm not telling you textbook stuff that some professor at Harvard came up with. I'm telling you exactly my experience for the last 20 years. It works. It works, and that's why you're here. That's why this convention is so important for what's going on around the world. If you are on this path and you don't like the outcome, there is a reason why Henry Ford put reverse gear in a Model T. You go down roads sometimes you do not want to be on. Quit, go the other way. If you're in a club and you're not living your passion and your purpose in that club, this is the time when you can go back revolutionized and you can say, guess what, gang? We got a different passion and purpose in our Lions Club, and we're going to change the world. And we're going to grab a bunch of millennials and we're going to teach them how to do it too. Because that's what this is all about. I was making this talk to a group of business people, and this woman walks up to me and she's got this guy in tow, and she says, meet my boss. We just had a conversation. He's now my old boss. I just quit my job because this wasn't working for me. I said, congratulations. And I looked at the guy and I said, how do you feel about me ruining your employee relationship? He said, she wasn't really doing a good job anyway. Her heart's not in it. That's a success story, my friends. I don't know what your destiny will be, but this one thing I do know, the only ones among you who will ever be truly happy are those who seek and find ways to serve other people. Albert Schweitzer said that. We've lived it. You get to do it. Thanks for letting me be a part of what you guys are doing today. This has been great. I think we've got some time for question and answer. I don't know how that works here, but we've got another microphone, I think, and we can talk a little bit more about this, or I can go on all afternoon.